You found the Beards and Badges podcast, where the coffee is strong, the beards are questionable, and training is non-negotiable. If you've ever cleaned a gun at midnight, trained on your day off, or wondered why your gear keeps getting heavier, you're in the right place. No fluff, no safe spaces, just experience, laughs, and lessons learned the hard way. So beard check, make ready, and let's send some freedom seeds. Well, welcome to the Beards and Badges podcast. Today I have special guest Wyatt McIntyre, who is running for Sebastian County Sheriff. Yeah. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I've been in law enforcement for over 24 years. I spent a little over 23 with the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office. The last year I've been the Chief of Police down in Mansfield. Throughout my career, I've held numerous different leadership positions. I was a sergeant in the jail. I was a sergeant on patrol. I went back to the jail as a lieutenant, where I served my last 8 years there as assistant jail administrator. I was on the Sebastian County Honor Guard. I did that for 16 years. I was on search and rescue. I was also on our SWAT team, where I served as assistant team leader for 4 years and team leader for around 3 years.
Awesome.
So
long history in Sebastian County for sure.
Yeah. And
then where are you at now?
In Mansfield.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm the Chief of Police down in Mansfield.
Very cool. So what made you want to run for sheriff?
So, you think about things throughout your career, and you think about different ways you can help, and different things that you might do differently than somebody else. And mine came from going to church. So I was dealing with a lot of anger issues, to the point it was waking me up in the middle of the night. I wake up just mad. And so I told my wife, I said, I want to start going to church. I said, I'm dealing with a lot of anger. And she said the softest, hardest 2 words I've ever heard. She just simply said, I know. And it was like a slap across the face, I didn't think it was an issue. And she told me, she said, everybody's been walking on eggshells, because you never know what's going to set you off. So again, I told her, I want to start going to church. I've always known God, but I never sought God. So we started church shopping, and we were invited to a couple of different churches, and then we got invited to Community Bible here in Greenwood, and it just fit. The very first day there, and this is how me running for sheriff actually came into play. My very first day there, an old friend of mine, I've known him for 20-something years, came up to me, and we're just talking, and he, told me that he'd been going to church here for quite some time, and he just casually mentioned, or casually asked, so when are you going to run for sheriff? And I just kind of laughed it off, didn't think a whole lot about it. And another buddy came up just right after him. We had almost identical conversation, almost identical. He asked the exact same question, almost like this was, typed out, So, same thing. He asked me when I'm going to run for sheriff, and just kind of laughed it off. Well, so that was a Sunday. The next day, on Monday, it was like God slapped me upside the head and said, this is your path. And, I don't know if the path is just a campaign in itself, or, if it is to become sheriff, but I listened and I pray about it almost on a daily basis, and he hasn't directed me in any other way. So, I talked to my wife about it, and talked to some key people in my life about it, and everybody thought it was a good idea and thought I'd do really well with it, and I agree with them.
Yeah.
So,
That's also, yeah, when you get direction like that, and just following it is the biggest thing. It feels like there's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's great. So what is kind of some things that you envision for the sheriff's office?
I got a list of things, and I'm not so naive to think I'll be able to do every one of them, but some of the small things. Communication, man. Within the sheriff's office, outside the sheriff's office, up, down, good, bad, we got to communicate. So I'll start outside the sheriff's office. City governments. I talked to my mayor a while back and I asked him, so when's the last time somebody from the sheriff's office, a sheriff or his designee, was down here to talk to you or the council or anybody like that? And he told me they've only been down there one time. And this is his words. And he said it was basically to strong arm the city into paying for something. And he said, other than that, they've never been down there. That's something I want to do. I want to send either me or a designee to each city at least twice a year. But I'm going to try to do once a quarter. And we can split it up. This time I'm going to go to Lavaca. You're going to go to Central City. You're going to go to Barling. Next quarter, we're going to go here. We're going to, and just get out, talk to mayors, talk to city governments. What can we do for you? How can we help? I know, there's that phrase, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, But, I'm sincere in it. I want to, if we work together, okay, prime example, take that case right there. The sheriff or whoever it was came down there to talk to the mayor about this, and they were strong-armed. If you already had a rapport with that government, with that mayor, you could go down there. Mayor, this is what's going on. This is what I need. We need help paying for this. It's going to make that go so much better.
For sure.
And they're, just that relationship. Law enforcement, there's some people who believe that there's no issue between Sebastian County and the agencies in the county. Not all of them, but there are some, and there are some issues. Again, I know for a fact communication is one of them. Communicate with them, talk to them. Fort Smith Police Department's right across the street from the sheriff's office, and it's two totally separate entities. And I'm not saying it should be all kumbaya, we're going to do this together and all that, but we should be able to work together.
Yeah.
We should have combined resources, combined task force. It shouldn't be us and them. We're one team. And that's with all, law enforcement. That's with, Fort Smith, as big as they are, all the way down to Bonanza and Mansfield and, the feds and, working together as one.
Yeah, because you're all serving the same people.
Exactly.
Just in different capacities in different areas.
Exactly. And, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to communicate and, how can we do this to better serve the public, but, to better go out and achieve the goal without too much blowback or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when those agencies are communicating well, like it's just helping serve the public better. And it's, making, when you guys are on scene, you're going to be on scene together a lot. So making that communication, like guys know each other, just actually usable and it's just benefiting the public. It really is.
I was told of an incident that it started off with the county, but it was in the city limits of Fort Smith, and it ended up being a pretty big event. And a buddy of mine with the Fort Smith Police Department told me later they never even knew about it. It was right in their city, and they never knew all this was going on. And, like I said, two different entities, Sebastian County Sheriff's Office, Fort Smith Police Department. But it doesn't take much. It's a phone call.
Yeah.
Hey, dispatch, contact Fort Smith and let them know what we're doing over here. It's something so easy that solves so many problems.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people would be surprised, or a lot of the civilian public would be surprised at like how little that is going on, or that even is a problem.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people like me would just assume that everybody kind of gets the call out at the same time, not necessarily, one agency or the other, and then not communicating in between. So.
Right. Yeah. We have everybody in this area has mutual aid agreements with one another. And, that allows us to go out and help one another do whatever it might be. Whether it's us going into, even a different county. We have mutual aid agreements with surrounding counties, even over in Oklahoma. And it allows us to help one another without it being a big logistical nightmare. It's just a phone call. And then get people on scene, go from there.
So what about communication between the sheriff's office and the general public? What are some things you have envisioned for that?
One simple thing, and some people will get this, some won't. I'm going to turn the comments back on. Comments were turned off on the Facebook, Sheriff's Office Facebook page a while back, and that's been a point of contention amongst the public and the Sheriff's Office. I believe you're going to learn just as much from the bad as you are the good.
Sure.
And I've seen the comments. I deal with it down in Mansfield. I know some of the comments are just going to be way out in left field and don't have anything to do with the topic at hand.
Yeah.
School through those, get through those, focus on the ones that you need to focus on, and you're going to see good and you're going to see bad.
Yeah.
You're going to learn from both.
Yeah. I think it's valuable intel. Some people, yes, are just getting on there to complain about whatever their biggest thing is. Yeah. But there's also that's a lot of eyes. That's opening it up to a lot of people that you guys just aren't on the ground. You're not in some of the houses and rooms that other people are and they see. So, that just benefits you guys to be able to do your job better.
So I believe that you cannot lead from behind a desk. One of my things will be, it'll have to be a good split. I'm not going to be behind my desk trying to run the sheriff's office. I'm going to be out. I'm going to be out in the field. I'm going to be out in the public talking to people, and I'm going to expect those same things from my staff and from everybody. Street deputies. Hey, while you're out here, if there's nothing going on, go walk through a school somewhere. Go have lunch at a senior center. Go talk to folks. Don't let the only point of contact be a bad one.
Yeah.
Let's get out there. Let's talk to folks. Hear them. Hear what they got to say, and that goes all the way down to even detention staff. There's job fairs. Getting out there, going job fairs, and being able to kind of sell what we do. Everybody knows working in detention is not the most glamorous job, but it is a good job.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done it for 7 years prior to going to patrol, and then I went back into jail for 8 years. So I've spent a lot of time in the jail. I always liked working there, and I know most people's goals are to do different things, but getting them to understand they are also a first point of contact. It might be with the person coming in jail. That right there, I see good and bad on Facebook.
Sure.
People get on there and they complain about their experiences in the jail. Well, it's jail.
Yeah.
Other people get on there and hey, I went to jail and I went to jail for this charge. I didn't have near the problems, but then again, I didn't go in as a butthole.
Yeah.
It's getting those people in certain places to, the release area. They're the ones that interact with the public the most. Having them informed, they need to have the knowledge where they can answer the people's questions or know where to get the answers.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, I don't know.
Right.
And leaving it at that.
Yeah.
So.
What are some training things that you'd like to implement to kind of benefit and aid that between the deputies and the general public? Anything there that you envision doing?
Yeah. So one, law enforcement is horrible about waiting until law enforcement officers get to the position of lieutenant. Most often, sometimes sergeants, but before we start sending them to leadership training, I want to, even if we do it in-house, I want to start instituting leadership training way sooner in their careers. Let's not wait until they've formed bad habits and bad traits. Let's get them, this is the kind of deputy we want you to be. I want you to be a servant leader, but I want you to be an informed leader. Know the policies. Let the policies guide your day. Let the policies, statutes, if you can, I've always been a policy guy. I read the full policy before I even started working at the sheriff's office. Throughout my career, I would go in and occasionally just read policy. I'm not the per section 2 page, I'm not that guy.
Right.
But I know, okay, that's in policy. Let's go check out and see exactly what it says. So
you're know the general, like kind of where it is, where your guidelines are.
Yeah, exactly. Let the policies drive you. Let them, dictate your day, and we'll hopefully at the end of the day all be fine.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I want to get people training sooner, leadership training sooner. I want them, things like active shooter training, and I know that sounds, gung ho, that it's something that I believe we should do once a year. One day, once a year, keep everybody up on it. And we have a wonderful resource out at Fort Chaffee, Carness Village. We can do whatever. We always have people willing to volunteer and be bad guys for us. And I want to continue to do things like that every single year. Not just the yearly mandated stuff we're required by standards,
right?
But things like that. Let's keep up on things like that. Let's keep up on things like, kind of go along with leadership training, but professionalism. Just how to talk to people, how to deal with people, And like I said, I've always been one of those guys. If I don't know the answer, I'll get it for you, and I will contact you back. That happened to me when I first went to Mansfield. The woman come up to me after a council meeting, started asking me questions, and I'd been out of the game for a little bit, so I had to, let me get the answer, and I'll come back to you. And I did it. And she was just bewildered by it. She said, I've never had anybody do this before. And, and I was like, well, I'm not everybody. So,
right. Yeah.
Do the things, give people closure. And, I think everything will be a whole lot better for all of us.
Yeah.
Because I'm deputies, sheriff's office, we are part of the community.
Right.
And as long as we're out there and we're trying to better our own community, it's just going to make it better for us.
Yeah. And I mean, people want to know. And I mean, I think a lot of people might ask questions and expect to not get an answer. Mm-hmm. And then when like you said, when they do, they're like, oh man, these guys actually care. Like they're actually here, exactly. They're doing stuff. And I mean, that on a broad spectrum for a lot of the deputies and a lot of the officers would just be so much help to the public. Mm-hmm. I mean, just getting answers back on things.
Yeah, exactly.
So what else would you like to see implemented? Would you like to do or lead from example from the sheriff's office benefiting the public?
Well, like I said a while ago, one of it is just getting out from behind that desk, being out in the public, and not expecting everybody to operate behind their desk. CID, for example. Great group of guys back there. I want them, I understand you have to be at your desk. You have, there are things that have to be done at your desk, but there's also days that there's not a whole lot going on. Go do follow-ups. Go give people closure. Hey, this is what's going on. Instead of calling somebody, this is what's going on with your case. And if it's a bad thing, the prosecutor decides not to file charges, whatever, mm-hmm. Go give them that information. Do it face to face rather than over the phone. If you have a suspect, and you get a warrant on that guy, go get him.
Yeah.
Don't just wait for somebody to make a traffic stop on the guy. Go get him. Take him to jail.
Right.
That's a crazy concept, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. One would think. So what about like with the patrol officers, their routes, their beats per se, that they're running now? What would you like to see? How would that change?
So the way the county is basically broken up, it's basically a quadrant. There's 4 areas or beats, and if there's enough staffing, 1 deputy per beat. We are horrible about making most of our traffic stops on highways or in the city. So before I left the sheriff's office, one thing I would do, I would go in and just check patrol logs. One, just to see if there's any crime around my house, but also I would look at traffic stops. Okay, my turn to ask you a question. I don't remember the time frame. It was like 3, 4, or 5 days. There were 77 traffic stops. Out of those 77, how many do you think were made on county roads?
I mean, I have no idea, but I would think a decent amount.
Okay, 2.
2 out of 77.
Out of 77. 75 traffic stops were made on a highway or in a city that is already patrolled by a law enforcement agency.
Wow.
So now, I'm not going to say I want our deputies are going to never be on a highway. There
Sure.
are times and places, and I honestly don't mind that they work highways and cities, but there has to be a better split.
Yep.
There has to be a better ratio. We got to get deputies back on county roads. Not only for the traffic point of it, but also it's going to lower your response times. It's going to be, you're going to be out there. You're going to be seen. It's going to deter crime. Get out there and serve the public. Get out there and be seen. So, if there is something, this guy just happened, hey, I'm checking out that house. Well, there goes a cop. Well, I'm going to change my mind and not go hit that house. So, like I said, there can be a good split. I'm not totally against deputies being on highways because I do think it's needed. State police can only do so much. So if we can fill the gaps a little bit, I'm good with that. But it has to be a better split.
So, like with response times, having one person in each quadrant, what does that kind of do to minimize response times? Like, where would it be before, and then where might it be after? Rough. I know it's a large area. It's a really big area, but any idea on like rough estimates on?
No, not offhand. I mean, I've been out of that part of it a little bit, but but just going back on my experience when I was a patrolman, if I'm out, one thing I love to do, I love back roads. I'd roll my windows down. I would just drive around, about the speed limit and just listen and just cruise around. I'd go sit somewhere. I would move, go sit somewhere. And, like you said, it is a big area. So if you're in, say Area 4 example, which roughly covers Hackett, all the way out to Midland, Hartford, so if you're in Hackett and a call comes out in Hartford, you're still going to be up to 10 minutes away.
Right.
But isn't that better than if you're over on the east side of Greenwood, doing kind of whatever you want to do, and, then you got to fight that Greenwood traffic, and now you're 20, 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Keeping people in a close proximity where they're supposed to be is going to help immensely.
And like you said, just having them out there like that gets more of the public that may not see a cop at all, or maybe just a city cop, more often, more regularly, gives them an opportunity to talk to more of the public, right?
Right. And so a little bit off topic, but kind of hitting on the same point, we have to have a transport division. There's agencies smaller than Sebastian County that has transport divisions. And to give an example, you have one person that handles all the MI calls. MI is mentally incompetent. And kind of what that entails, so say he comes to work, or he might even know about it the day before, this is what you're looking at tomorrow, or he might show up that morning, hey, this came in first thing this morning. You have to go pick up a person. They might be at a hospital, they might be at Valley Behavioral over in Barling, and you go pick this person up, take them for an evaluation, and then take them to a court, and then from there the judge determines if they're going to be held up to 45 days somewhere. From that point until they get a bed, could be 30 minutes, it could be 3 hours.
Yeah.
Well, we have to hold that person somewhere and then drive that person somewhere. So, if it's a super easy day, that person gets one MI, great. He gets two, normally he can still handle those. If he gets 2 or 3 all at the same time, now he starts needing help. Or if he has to call in that day, something comes up and he can't be at work. Now we're taking patrolmen off the street to do all these things.
Gotcha.
So, and there's times it takes more than one patrolman. So you're taking a couple patrolmen, leaving 2, maybe 3 out. And so you got 2 or 3 deputies covering this whole county.
Right.
Because we're having to do other things a transport division could do. Not only that, our patrolmen get tasked with, if there's a warrant pickup in any surrounding county and up to northwest Arkansas. So dispatch calls a supervisor, somebody got pulled over on a traffic stop up in Bentonville. And they'll call dispatch, hey, we have Mr. Jones here for you to come pick up on a warrant. Well, that supervisor is going to call a patrolman to drive all the way up to Bentonville. Say that patrolman just happens to be down in Mansfield. You're looking at what, a an easy 2-hour drive. Plus, when you get there, they have to get the guy out of the system. You have to take him to custody, all that, drive him all the way back, take him to jail, do paper. You're looking at a good 5 or 6 hours on one warrant. And like I said, and that happens multiple times every day.
Yeah.
The jail, it happens a couple different ways in the jail. They get MIs that they have to do that are people being held in the jail. They get hospital runs, medical runs, court runs, all this different stuff. And so now you're pulling people off shift and you're reducing the workforce inside the jail.
Right.
If it's big enough and it's planned, they can, hey, can you come in on overtime for this day? But if not, and a lot of it's last minute stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I need you to go get a car and take this person to wherever, take them to the hospital. You might have to take them to Little Rock. You might have to take them to the other side of the state. Again, that's reducing our workforce that should be at work and covering a post. If we had a transport division, it would help alleviate. They might not be able to do every single thing on every single day.
Right.
But they're going to be able to cover most of it.
Yeah. And that, I assume for that, you're going to end up having to hire people to do that. The current manpower, like you probably end up hiring people, which is just going to make some more jobs in the county and help more people out.
Yeah. And there are some things that can kind of be moved around, but the best way to handle it would be put more bodies out there.
Yeah.
And, I know nobody wants to talk about this, but at some point the county will need a new jail. And if it's designed correctly, you won't need as much staff to run the jail. So technically you could use some of those people. Sure. But that's also quite a bit down the road too. So one thing I want to focus on, going back to and I'm not talking about deputies, I'm talking about staff, everybody, is on the front of that car says honor and integrity. Those have to be our main virtues every single day. When you go out and you're interacting with the public and you're doing your job, everybody always defines integrity as doing the right thing even when no one's looking. Do it.
Yeah.
So when I'm elected, day one or that first week, everybody in the sheriff's office, every deputy, one thing you have to do is sign it's called a code of ethics. And you do that usually in the academy.
Sure.
Day one, everybody will sign a new code of ethics. They're going to reaffirm themselves to your ethics. One thing that was taught to me a long time ago, and I still do it to this day, it made sense to me. I put my code of ethics, I framed it, and it is it is eye level by my door in my office, has been for almost 10 years now. Yeah. And that's what I see every time I go to my office.
Yep.
To reaffirm my code of ethics, to do the right thing even when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that our deputies, you will do, is you will follow your honor, your integrity, your morals, your good character, man. You know, it's not hard. Sometimes people fall, people stumble, and we'll deal with that when it comes.
Yeah, and that's just what people expect. I mean, like you're there to aid people, to be a resource to the public, and they expect the best that you can be.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the way my command staff will be. I've already kind of got some ideas on placement and different things, and that'll be your job. Not just run your division, but to ensure your people are doing the right thing every day.
Yeah. So what about as far as keeping your deputies up to standards with the laws? I know they're ever changing, and just making sure that they we talked about earlier, but they know, like your policies, they know the current laws, they know what they're enforcing, and they have a reasonable knowledge and a good working knowledge of those things.
Yeah.
What are some plans there?
There's some law enforcement officers, they're there. You don't even have to tell them stuff like that. They know the websites, they know all this stuff, but other deputies aren't that driven. So, that's where your command staff, your patrol captain, patrol lieutenant, ADC staff, whatever division it is, you need to make sure that you're staying current on all laws, because they, like you said, they're ever changing all the time. And if you fall behind and you're still going on this law from base back here, but it's changed, and it could be a little bit, but you're still doing it this way, then, you're going to get yourself in some trouble. So.
Yeah. I know, we're still in January. I mean, so there were a lot of laws that just changed, just rolled over. So getting those out and knowing them so that, when you are on a call or something, you understand what the new law is, and then you're able to help the public understand, hey, this is what happened, this is what the new current law is, and be knowledgeable on the topic.
Yeah, because one of the worst things you can do is give people bad information. And I've been on calls, even with my bosses, and I've been on calls with them before. And at the end of it, once that boss left, I told the person, "Don't listen to anything he just said. He's going to get you in trouble. This is what you have to do. This is what you need to do." And not a diss to that supervisor or anything, but I'm not going to bust them out in front of these people.
Sure.
But they didn't have the current information or whatever, and but then I would be man enough afterwards to go up to that boss and say, "Hey, you gave them bad information, and I didn't want to bust you out in front of them, but this is the correct way."
Yeah.
And
And for those guys, just being able to receive that and be it's still learning. I mean,
yeah.
All of us are, no matter what you do, you should be always learning and always doing something to better yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's really all it is. It's just, but you guys bettering yourselves then in turn benefits the public in a huge way of really knowing your stuff.
So there's been a couple of times in my career that I've almost got myself in trouble. I believe in having hard talks, even with my bosses.
Yeah.
I've had them with the current sheriff. I had him with a captain. He had me so mad. I was out on patrol. I was down around the Witchville area. He called me because as a sergeant, one of my deputies had just made a traffic stop. I think she was 16 at the time, but he had patted her down, and I don't remember the whole thing, but found drugs on her, and the girl's grandparents called making a complaint because this deputy patted her down. And I said, well, he was well within his rights to. And he's like, well, it's a girl. Doesn't matter. And, I started, we went back and forth, and I told him, I forget if it's sergeant or captain. I said, sir, I'm on my way up to the office right now. I want to talk to you about this in person. And so I drove up there, and I told him, I said, in the academy, if you didn't find the knife or whatever on Sergeant Sprayberry, you were getting your butt ringed.
Yeah.
If you didn't, so I'm not afraid to pat down a female. There are certain ways to do it, and you're trained how to do it.
Yeah.
Number one, always do it on camera.
Yeah.
Two, they teach you ways to do it. And so we went back and forth on it, and I told him, I said, I'm not changing the thing. My guys will always pat down females. And again, it's just one of those things. Had a hard talk with him. Same thing, same person. He was a captain at the time. I get told, so the sheriff's office implemented this. I had to send a patrolman up to the dispatch to give each dispatcher a 30-minute uninterrupted break. And just so happened at this exact same time, Greenwood was doing some training that they wanted all their people to go to. So we were covering Greenwood as well as our own calls. And now you want to send me to send a deputy to the Fort Smith office to cover dispatch. The guys on my troop, and this is what I explained to him. We can answer the phone. We can hear them. Okay, hold on just a second. How do you put this phone on hold? Put it on hold. You got to call whenever you're done with that one because I don't know what to do. Yeah. Because it isn't just answering the call.
Right.
You have to log everything. We didn't know how to do all that.
Yeah.
So my point was, you have ADC staff literally right across the street. If all they're doing is coming over and answering phones, why not call one of them over instead of having me send one of my people all the way to the office? And he said, that's what the bosses want. And I told him, I said, respectfully, sir, this is one order I'm not going to do. Yeah. And it didn't go over well. He got mad, but he explained to me the consequences. And I said, then that's the sword I'm willing to fall on, sir. I said, because you guys are setting a bad precedence by doing this. There's so many other options, but you're having me send a patrolman all the way up there just to sit in a chair, just to answer a phone when somebody can walk across the street and do the same thing. Right.
And that's taken away from, you guys helping out Greenwood doing that thing and that communication there. I mean, if they can't trust that you guys are going to be able to
cover their stuff, like, man, that hurts the smaller departments.
Yeah.
When like they need to do
I thought
training.
You said you were going to be able to do this,
right.
and now you're
Right.
you're not able to help. Yeah, exactly. Again, communication. And
I think too, part of it is like looking at everything. I mean, I think everybody looks at things so minutely and like a 5-foot perspective instead of looking at that 3,000-foot perspective and seeing the whole picture of what can we really do here that's going to benefit everybody and not put anybody in a hard situation like that.
And so this is the kicker to that story. The very first night I was supposed to do that, we were getting hammered. And I called the dispatcher and I said, look, I'm not going to be able to send anybody up there right now because I was supposed to send them up there at a certain time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do this tonight. This is why. And they were very confused and they said, well, I don't understand. And I was like, well, I thought, and they said, no, they ended up doing a staff change and now they have somebody working a split shift, so we don't have to send nobody. So I was fixing to get myself in all kinds of trouble, disobey a direct order, and everything had completely changed and hadn't got communicated to me.
And you were the one that were supposed to having to be do that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Yeah, communication is a huge aspect that better communication all around just helps everybody out.
Exactly.
And which is so funny that everybody's on their phones all the time now. So you're like, why can you not just like shoot me a text or call me or say something?
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody ever wants to or nobody ever does, seems like.
Exactly. And, people talk about transparency. And I know we've talked about communication with like law enforcement and government agencies and stuff, but, and yes, 100%, I believe in transparency. If there's something that we can put out, it will be put out. If it's an open investigation, obviously not. We have to do what we have to do. Some things might not even be put out by the sheriff's office. It might come through the prosecutor's office. But when we can, we will put out information to the public. If there's just even a question that's been asked, answer it. If it's on the social media page, if it's an email that's sent in, answer it.
Yeah.
And I've seen it throughout my career. So you get a complaint on a deputy for whatever reason. Some of them are founded, yes. But quick little story right quick. We had a complaint come in on Terry Johnson. A lot of people know who he is. Terry was the kindest, gentlest person. I never seen him yell or get mad, never once ever. This complaint comes in that he had made a traffic stop on a woman, and she claimed that he was just, totally outside his character, made all these claims. So they brought her in and was going to have her do an official report. She brings her husband in with her, and of course he's upset too, because she'd been treated like this. And the supervisor, I think it's sergeant, captain, whoever he was at the time, tells me, well, I got a video I want you guys to watch. And by the end of the video, I wasn't there, but from what that captain told me, the husband just eyeballing his wife because the deputy Terry didn't do anything like she claimed he did. I've been in those positions before. I had to write an apology letter to a man one time when it was proven. I didn't have body camera. But there was a woman inside, and I even told the bosses, I said, if she would come forward, I guarantee you, she would back everything I said.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong. The response was, well, this guy's known to bash people in the newspaper and stuff, so write the letter.
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter. It wasn't an apology letter, but I wrote the letter. That woman actually did come forward and backed everything I said. And I even asked the bosses, I was like, so why do I have to write this letter when I've been proven to be right? She proved me right on everything I said. Yeah. And the response was something like, I think that's when they said, well, he's been known to bash other agencies, and if he did this, then we would do that. And I said, why don't you have my back on the front end?
Sure.
I told you exactly. I didn't lie about a single thing. She come in. I don't know this woman. I've never even spoke to her.
Yeah.
But she come in and told you the exact same story I did. But you're making me write this. No. We will we will listen. We will look into it, investigate it.
Sure.
And then we will make a decision.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to just take somebody's word just because I know I've seen it. It's happened to me. You know, just because somebody believes something, perception is not always reality.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me that they disagree with me on that, but it's been proven to me so many times throughout my career. Perception is not always reality. Just because somebody sees something a certain way doesn't make it fact.
Yeah.
And I want to see documentation. I want to see, video. I want to see whatever before we make a decision on something.
Yeah. Just having the evidence. I mean, that's all it boils down to. Well, hey, kind of wrapping it up. Why should somebody vote for Mac for sheriff?
Well, me and my opponent, we have two different leadership styles. I believe in leading by inspiration, not intimidation. I want to get out there and be seen in the public. I want to, and I know this is going to be both points, but I do. I want to better the sheriff's office to better our community. I haven't heard him say exactly what his goals are, what his intentions are. I'm sure he has his, and but I just think I would do a good job for you. I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I have the skills to lead people, not only in good times but in bad.
Awesome. So when is the vote? I know it's coming up.
Early voting starts February 17th, and primary is on March 3rd.
Awesome. And where can people find out more information about you, hear more about you, things like that?
I do have a Facebook page, Mac for Sheriff. Have a website, macforsheriff.com. I'm also on Instagram. I believe it's Mac for Sheriff as well. I'm pretty straight across the line there.
Yeah.
But, just check me out on social media. Trying to put some videos. I've been out talking to a bunch of different groups. I went to the Greenwood Senior Center on Thursday. Fine group of people out there. Talked to quite a bit of folks out there, and just trying to get out and earn votes.
Yeah. So there you have it. Vote for Mac on February 17th for early voting, and March 3rd, right? Yep. March 3rd for regular voting.
Yep.
Cool. Vote Mac.
Thank you, bud.
Yep. See you.